Good evening, or whatever time it is. I'm your host, Bob Smith, and welcome to the Fans Go Mild, the show that aims to keep your excitement levels at a peak lukewarm. Coming up tonight, we've got some breaking news. Hey guys, are you sure this isn't for that Wilder show? This doesn't seem like us. Really? Okay, cool. Just brace yourselves, people, because we've actually got some breaking news here from the world of football. The A-League is apparently expanding. I know. It's thrilling. The 2023-24 season will feature 16 teams instead of the previous 12. Joining the party are Canberra United, the men's team, to go alongside their previous women's team that was in that competition. Also, two new teams, the Darwin Cyclones and the Redcliffe Waves. Like, seriously, did I get these names from like ChatGPT or something? Oh, geez. And one more team here from New Zealand, AFC Auckland. Shaun Does FM has taken up the reins as manager at AFC Auckland after Steve Corica opted for Canberra United instead, preferring a more boring lifestyle across the ditch. Shaun, known for winning trophies in video games, will be negotiating the ups and downs with New Zealand's newest professional team. And coming through some more breaking news, like seriously, guys, why is this on our show? We don't want to excite the viewers too much. You know what New Zealand sports fans are like. Okay, so we're still going to do it? Okay, let me just read the rest of it. Shaun Does FM has also been appointed as the All Whites manager. A statement coming through now from New Zealand football saying, "We have shown in the past we don't do this sort of thing well, so we're copying what Auckland are doing." That seems pretty fair, actually. Oh, and here's a curveball for you. Promotion and relegation between divisions in the Australian Pyramid. The bottom two teams in the A-League will go down to the second division, and if you're sitting pretty at 13th or 14th, you get the privilege of facing each other in a relegation playoff. These stakes have never been so marginally high. And drumroll please, say goodbye to the heart-palpitating excitement of a final series that is now gone. The league winner will now be crowned the overall A-League champion. No more thrilling knockout rounds, just the way we like it here on the Fans Go Mild. So big changes for both the Australian football pyramid and New Zealand football. Definitely keep an eye out over the season on how AFC Auckland do get on, and also the All Whites with Shaun Does FM. But coming up after the break, we're going to look at all the rain-affected games from this past summer of cricket. Mild times indeed.
And the city's on fire.
Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of this FM24 New Zealand Builder Nation, here with me, Shaun, on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and this save is going to be with both a club team and an international team. As you can see on screen, we're going to be taking over a new Auckland A-League team, which is going to be named AFC Auckland, and also alongside that, we will take over the New Zealand national team, try and build both teams up. Of course, Auckland, through the A-League, hopefully can develop some good players for the international team, and also try and get the world ranking of that international team up, and hopefully try and get them to do decently at a World Cup. So if you like the sound of this save, then do consider going down below and leaving a thumbs up on the video. It does help out greatly on the first episodes of these new series. And also, if you're looking forward to it, do make sure to hit that subscribe button as well, so you do not miss out on any of the upcoming episodes. But first up, here is what our manager does look like going in to this save, this time going with both club and international management from the start, unlike a couple of years ago when I did the Icelandic Builder Nation, because that time when we did get the offer of an international job, our club team would have sacked us if we interviewed for that. So going to try and avoid that this time by both taking over the club international team from the start. But here's probably the more interesting team for this save, AFC Auckland, backed by Bill Foley of AFC Bournemouth. That's where the name does come from. A new team entering, as you hopefully saw through that intro. I haven't actually recorded that yet as I'm doing this, doing it in a bit of a funny order, the recording for this, but it is going to be a promotion relegation A-League system, 16 teams. Of course, the Auckland team, as well as Canberra United, they do enter the 2024-25 season in real life, and two more teams in a couple of years down the road for the A-League. But this system that has been done nicely from James Jarvis, as I mentioned back last month on the Win FM25 video, that competition will still be going on until the start of tomorrow's episode. But the A-League is now a 16-team promotion relegation. The bottom 2 teams, they will go straight down to the second division over in Australia, and the 13th and 14th place teams, they will play in a relegation playoff. There is no final series, so hopefully we can do a decent job in the league, at least in terms of our first season at AFC Auckland, once we actually sign some players. That's what makes this first episode a little bit different. We're going to have to do some international stuff instead of some club stuff because we don't have any staff and we have absolutely no players. I'm going to try and sort that out before we do come back for tomorrow's episode. But first up, we're going to play some games as the All Whites manager, a couple of friendlies, I believe, that will be set up in game. Not exactly too sure who'll be part of that yet, but here is what the All Whites do look like. Obviously, these guys do have a little bit of history, 102nd in terms of the world rankings. So hopefully we can find a way nice and early to potentially get them inside of the top 100. Their highest ranking at one point was 47th. I believe that wasn't too far off the back of the World Cup that they did make and stayed unbeaten in South Africa. And there you can see what the team does look like. Ben Waine up top over Chris Wood is interesting. Looks like we should be using a 4-2-3-1. Also interesting to see there are a couple of free agents as well as on the right-hand side, some players only 15 years old in that who are some hot prospects. There's some players I should probably go back and start scouting for the Auckland A-League team because they could be quite useful for that team that we do assemble for our first season in the A-League. But there apparently is our best 11 for the New Zealand team. But for this first episode, we are going to focus a little bit more on the international team because as you're about to see, we've still got about 2 months, just under that, until we play our first game of the A-League away at Western United. That's going to be the game where we will unveil our first squad here for AFC Auckland. And of course, if you want to see how the save did get set up, I'll leave a link over in the top right corner to that Win FM25 video because all the details were outlined in that. And you'll still have 24 hours to try and match my team going in to that Western United game. The person who gets the closest will win a copy of FM25 when it does come out later this year. But this should be quite a fun, interesting save, trying to make the most of a second New Zealand team joining the A-League and also trying to use that to hopefully develop some good New Zealand players and get the All Whites going up the international rankings a little bit. Of course, they should really be making World Cups a bit more consistently now that qualification is changing. There is an automatic spot, I believe, coming to Oceania, which should make things a lot easier. But our first 2 friendlies, one of them definitely not easy. First up, we take on Syria, and that one's actually at our home ground for AFC Auckland in Mount Smart Stadium. Syria, if we have a quick look, they are ranked 93rd. That's a game that at home, I'd like to think we might be able to pick up a win in, but then only a few days later, we travel, and I believe it looks like we might be off, I dare say, away from home. That will be at Wembley. Indeed it is. And we're probably going to get absolutely thrashed by England. Not too sure what the point of that friendly is, but unfortunately I wasn't able to schedule that one. But certainly, hopefully, a chance for us here to get off to a good start in charge of the All Whites at Syria. In terms of other things with the AFC Auckland team, going over to the inbox there, you can see that is what the supporter profile does look like. Of course, they do want us to be competitive against the Wellington Phoenix. That should be very interesting once we hit our first New Zealand derby of the save, and also they do want us first season to avoid relegation from the A-League. Hopefully that is something that we can do. I have noticed when summing forward in the save, trying to see if this Auckland team can actually make their way into the Asian Champions League, and that unfortunately wasn't able to figure that out. By the time they got a decent position in the A-League, the Australian League had dropped down the Asian coefficient a little bit. So what would have been a spot in an Asian Champions League or the second tier of the Asian Champions League, they were not getting. Of course, the Phoenix being in New Zealand, they cannot qualify for the Asian Champions League being an Oceania team. I'm not too sure if that's the same for us or if that's different because this is a new team that has been put into the game, but hopefully might find a way in the future to get some Champions League football in Asia here at AFC Auckland. In terms of club vision expectations, really not a lot considering that they are a new club. Just sign players under the age of 23, but not over the age of 30. And of course, we can't really do too much in terms of a tactics induction because we've got no players. I'm about to sort that out before we come back for those first couple of friendlies in only 4 days' time, and also get some staff through the door as well, as so far we've got pretty much no one. So that's definitely something I need to sort out before we do get stuck into our first couple of games in charge of the All Whites here in this New Zealand builder nation. Haven't come up with a clever name for this save so far. If you got one, then do leave it down in the comments and let me know what you think a good name for this save might be. But to be fair, have been struggling with a name considering we've got 2 teams to manage. Does make things just a little bit more difficult, but I'm going to try and sort out things in terms of the staff and also get some players scattered who we could sign for our inaugural AFC Auckland team. We'll come back shortly and get stuck in to some international friendlies against Syria and England.
A few moments later.
And we are back about to take on Syria in our first game of the save as manager of the All Whites, the New Zealand national team. As you saw before, this is a game that I'd like to think we can actually pick up a decent result from, considering they're only 9 places above us on the world rankings, and also with this one being at Mount Smart Stadium, which will be our home for AFC Auckland, considering that's already been announced for the A-League team that is going to join in real life come the start of the next season in around about 9 or so months' time. But first up, a little bit frustratingly, because of the start date for the save only 4 days prior to this first friendly, we have not been able to select our own squad. So it does mean some of these players that are going to be taking part in these first couple of games that we do play might not be featuring too much for us throughout the rest of the save, in particular because Chris Wood, he's picked up an injury in pre-season and won't feature for us because of that. But a couple of tactics that have been recommended to us by our assistant manager of the All Whites, and that is Simon Elliott, a former All White himself. We've got 3 tactics here. First up, a 4-4-2 gegenpress. This usually would actually work quite well for the Wayne train alongside Chris Wood up front, but at the moment, Matty Garbutt does look like the best option alongside the Wayne train with that injury to big Chris Wood. But the team that we've got, there's a couple of actually quite promising players in this team. In particular, got the likes of in the midfield, Joe Bell and Stamanek. That is a very strong midfield, and even further forward, Sarpreet Singh, usually more of a central midfielder. He's going to play out right for us here in this first friendly that we do play, because he can do a job there. And to be fair, we are quite weak on the wings in this New Zealand team, albeit Callum McCowart out on the left is quite a decent player as well. He could be someone who does feature for us prominently in the national team for the first couple of years of the save. But the midfield is quite strong, especially with the likes of Ryan Thomas also on the bench. Defence is a little bit average, apart from the fact that we've got Libby Kakache at left back. He is a decent left back option, having been an Empoli in Serie A the last couple of years of his career. And up front, as I said, usually if we were going to play a 4-4-2, we'd be able to put Chris Wood alongside the Wayne train. But at the moment, Matty Garbutt, he can go there. To be fair, quite a high potential player out of NAC in the Netherlands. So it's not a bad team we're putting out for this first game. Worth keeping an eye on players like Stefan Marinovic, one of our backup goalkeepers. He's currently a free agent on trial with us at AFC Auckland. He could be someone who does sneak his way into that team, albeit might not get game time in these friendlies, because Ollie Sale of the Perth Glory is a slightly better option. Also probably a bit more of a one that we might sign for that Auckland team as a first choice player. Cullen Elliott is a decent right back option in terms of the national team. Was let go on a free by the Phoenix at the end of this past season in real life. Because of that, he does look like quite a good option as a free transfer for our first AFC Auckland squad. And also, Marco Rojas is a free agent, just spent the 1 year at Colo Colo. He might be a good pickup as well for our new Auckland A-League franchise, albeit at 31 years old as a winger with pretty average balance and work rate. Not too sure if that's such a great idea, and also he might have slightly higher wage demands than those other players that we did just look at. So a couple of free agents that hopefully we might get a bit of a look at in these couple of friendlies that we do play in today's episode. And as I said, this first game as well is at our home ground. We'll be using at AFC Auckland in Mount Smart Stadium. Now I've got an idea for this save, because no doubt some of you watching this will be from Northern Hemisphere and won't have much of an idea about these stadiums that we are going to in both New Zealand occasionally, as well as in Australia, and hopefully in Asia if we can qualify for the Asian Champions League. So because of that, I think we're going to do some bus trips. So we're going to do a bus trip to Mount Smart Stadium. Now obviously we don't usually with AFC Auckland need to do this because all our players will be living in Auckland, but with the international team that is different. So it's time to go over and start from our hotel. And here's the starting point for our first bus trip of the save. Of course, everyone loves a bus trip, especially after the game. Lots of nice iced chili bins with lots of beverages in the back, albeit professional players not too sure if they can drink the beverages these days, but the manager can. so we can get on the source after the game. But here's where we're staying. This is a Novotel in Auckland. Now, to be fair, my sort of directions around Auckland aren't too great. I usually just go to Auckland to get out of the place unless it's a Foo Fighters concert or something. So I'm not too familiar with Auckland, especially around Mount Smart Stadium. But this was, according to Google, the best hotel in and around Mount Smart Stadium. It's only around about 5k and 8-minute drive from where Mount Smart is. Those are the directions that we are going to be taking. But here's the Novotel, and to be fair, this does kind of look like one of the hotels that might have been used during COVID quarantine. I'm not too sure if that's actually the case. It might be somewhere different, closer to the airport. If it was, then let me know down in the comments. As I said, not too familiar with Auckland, at least in terms of outside of Queen Street and K Road and those sort of things, from when I've been going on cruises out of the city and also just in and around the airport. That's about my knowledge of Auckland. That Foo Fighters concert I went to, that was out at Western Springs. But we'll make our way now towards Mount Smart Stadium and come back if anything interesting does pop up. Albeit it hasn't taken too long. Quite close to the hotel where the football team will be staying, the All Whites, there is the Ellerslie racetrack, so in quite a nice part of Auckland. But now we've seen that, we can make our way towards Mount Smart Stadium itself. As we've made our way down now to a roundabout. Now I think we want to turn left and try and get on the motorway. To be fair, I'm probably not the person who should be driving the bus. I should be focusing on the game coming up, especially one that's quite winnable against someone like Syria, but I think I'm going to have to drive the bus in this situation. I don't think NZ Football has too much money because they aren't very good at organising things. They're not the greatest at sorting stuff out for the national team like a head coach. That's been an issue in the past, but we'll try and make our way here to the stadium, hopefully with no issues. And I think we want to go left here at this set of lights and try and get on the motorway, at least according to the directions over here on this other tab. We're going to try and get here on State Highway 1, and that is to our left. We want to go towards Hamilton according to this, I believe it is. So we will do that once we do make our way to the next roundabout. There you can see a petrol station here in New Zealand, BP. They do coffee and decent pies occasionally, so that's New Zealand things. But we'll make our way now, try and get on State Highway 1 as we probably exit somewhere there that would have been a whole lot easier than the route that we've taken. But we'll try and take this left here and get onto the State Highway and make our way down towards Mount Smart Stadium, a stadium that's probably more famous for being home of the Wales, the Warriors, the rugby league team here that play in the NRL and the Australian competitions. Kind of similar to what AFC Auckland will be, but they're already in the Australian competition. Up the Wales was quite a big thing here in New Zealand in this past year. We now make our way down the motorway for a fair bit. Don't think there's going to be much too interesting here on the motorway, albeit nice little rainbow there. Hopefully it's not a side effect of the beverages that I have in my chili bin, or the esky it will be when we do go to Australia. And here's a better view of the race course that we were staying next to, so we haven't actually got that far so far, but we need to go on this road for around about 4 kilometers. We'll just stop in when something interesting does pop up, like that rainbow, which now just looks like it's kind of dissipating. Maybe because the alcohol / whatever was in those drinks has worn off. And now we've gone down the highway a little bit. To be fair, there's been nothing interesting at all on this highway so far of the motorway. We now want to take this exit 435 onto the Ellerslie Panmure Highway. So we're going to do that, getting a little bit closer to our home ground for AFC Auckland. I think next up we take the third exit at the roundabout once we get there. So now for a lot of misclicks, I finally found a way to get away around this roundabout. So we're going to make our way to the third exit, which I'm pretty sure is a right turn. Now we are on this here, and we continue for 210 meters because I'm a really accurate bus driver and all that. And we continue here going on Route 5 / Great South Road past things like the Soft Car Wash and a Caltex this time, another petrol station. Just past the Caltex, got some actual food options here. We've got Bruce Lee Sushi and Roll. That sounds more like a karate shop, but I guess it's food. Anyway, we'll go past that. We can save that for after the game. And after going past a number of car shops, which no doubt those rich professional players over in Europe will definitely be eyeing up some Land Rovers and whatnot, we can now make our way onto Station Road. Going for a red light, but we're on Google, so it doesn't matter too much. We'll go here down Station Road, see what Station Road has to offer if we can. Can we? It's a little bit funny. Yes, we can. Past the PB Tech where I can buy all my equipment for streaming and whatnot. We'll keep going down here. Eventually make our way towards another petrol station, or past one, this time of a cheaper option. Now we go left onto Morris Road. And down here somewhere, we should eventually get to Mount Smart Stadium, which is the home for AFC Auckland for today's game, where we do take on Syria. We'll just try and make our way here towards the entrance to get a nice look at the current home of the Warriors, but the soon-to-be home of this new Auckland A-League team. And here it is, Mount Smart Stadium. We'll go through the reserve car park here. Hopefully there's a nice place to park this bus. We'll just check here. Looks a little bit tight with all these cars around. We'll just keep making our way. Down here is the bus park. Surely it's down here. We can make our way through this gate or something, can we? I presume we can go through that gate. And that's Mount Smart Stadium. There you can see it. You can go through here. Can we get a good look at it through here somewhat? Or is that not going to work? No, okay. Anyway, there's Mount Smart Stadium. We'll try and get a decent picture of it here somewhere and we can look at that. And we've found our way now inside the stadium. So this is going to be our home ground, as I said, for AFC Auckland for the All Whites for this first game that we do play of this save. For some reason, I've got the rugby league goalposts up, which is a little bit awkward. Might need to sort that out before kickoff, but there you can see it. It's actually quite a nice stadium in terms of being a rectangular one here in New Zealand. Not too many of those. There's probably only a couple that are slightly better, and one of those would I dare say be down in Dunedin with the covered roof at Forsyth Bar. But there's our home ground at AFC Auckland. Now we've made our way to the ground. Time to get stuck into our first game of the save and hopefully pick up a decent result as we take on Syria. And here are the team sheets for our first game in charge of the All Whites. In this save, as you saw before, we are going with a 4-2-4 Gegenpress. Got a couple of other tactics loaded up, but might save them for the England game. We are going to be the rank outsiders. There are Syria. They are going with a 4-4-2 and have someone called Ham in the midfield, but hopefully we can start things off with a decent result at home. And the first highlight that we do see comes at the 5-minute mark. It is here a goal kick to Syria in the red, of course, with us being the All Whites at home. We are in the all white. Now Sarpreet Singh plays that one forward to the Wayne Train and McCowart with a good early chance. And Alma there, I thought was forced into a save, but unfortunately that one actually just misses the target. Good early chance there for our promising left winger, still 0-0. Only a few minutes later now, it is Syria with a throw-in from a pretty similar spot to where we did hit them before on the counter-attack. Now Shamso is on the ball here, plays that one forward to Ham. Let's see if he can have a good time here. Plays that one out to Al Halak, I believe it is. Down the left-hand side, floats that one to the mix. So thankfully Libby can clear that one. And a shot that comes off the post, so a good chance for both teams, but they do miss the target. Still 0-0, just going past the 15-minute mark. And just shoved the 20-minute mark off the back of the opening chance that we did have. It has been Syria who have been on the front foot and stuff like that isn't going to help. Poor clearance there, not too sure which one of our centre-backs that was, either Tim Payne or Francis de Vries. As you can see, now that Winston Reid's retired from international football, we do look a little bit weak in that position. Long range effort there, but thankfully just over the bar. But as you can tell from the stats, Syria definitely on the front foot. Hopefully that'll change and we can pick up a result in our first game in charge. And just at the half-hour mark here might be a chance for us to eventually do something else in this game, albeit poor past that time from Stamanek. It's a chance here for Syria to do something on the counter-attack, and Omar there does just get in behind. We'll chip that one over Ollie Sailboat. The Perth Glory goalkeeper gets caught out there, and unfortunately we go 1-0 down in our first game of the save. And if we got nothing from this, a draw would be nice at the very least. This would not be a great start to our time in charge here at New Zealand of the All Whites, but that is, to be fair, quite a good finish from Omar, but we have not been doing well since that early chance through McCowart, and eventually we go 1-0 down. And only a couple of minutes shy of half-time, we have now gone to an attacking mindset instead of a positive one, just to see if that does get us on the front foot a little bit more here in front of our home fans. But unfortunately Syria here with a really strong first half. Al Halak there with a chance, but thankfully Ollie Sale that time comes up with a very good save. But stats-wise, as you can see, Syria definitely been the better team in this first half, which is concerning, albeit no Chris Wood and not the team that we actually got a chance to select in terms of the overall squad. There could be some players out there who do fit the styles that we want to use a little bit better. Did get some late chances according to the XG match story in that first half, so maybe going on to attacking, it did help us out just a little bit, but that was a pretty average first half. Just going to check here on some player ratings. Callum McCowart going fairly on a 6.4, so I think we're going to make a sub there in that position. Got either Marco Rojas or Elijah Just, who can come on for him. Of course, Marco Rojas was suggested as being the best right winger in the squad. We'll just check here whether he or Just is better on that left-hand side, but I think it probably will be Rojas. We'll make that one sub going in to the second half, just the one player there below a 6.5, but we'll tell the guys, haven't really been playing too well, don't look like a team that wants to win. Hopefully they'll get some sort of reaction in the second half, and we don't lose our first game of the save against Syria before taking on England at Wembley. And very shortly into the second half, an early highlight here as we do it to play out from the back. Ollie Sale picks out Tim Payne to be fair, usually a right back for the Phoenix. Has actually been playing really well for them in real life this season. Not too sure if that will translate over into FM, but John Kerwin's son, Nico Kerwin, at right back. He was a former New Zealand rugby international, was John Kerwin. We eventually find their Sarpreet Singh, poor touch, but thankfully the clearance there from Syria just goes back to Tim Payne. Ideally, would have someone a bit better in that centre-back position. To be fair, we've got Tyler Bindon from Reading. He's a very promising centre-back, might be someone who is worth giving some game time to. Now a chance there for Marko Stamanic, but that is a really good save from the Syrian goalkeeper as we were looking for that top right corner. But encouraging start, some encouraging stuff since we did go to an attack mentality off the back of conceding that first goal, but unfortunately nothing doing off the back of that corner, and we still trail 1-0. And just past the hour mark, unfortunately now we are down the wrong end of the field. Syria here do have a corner. We hit that one away. I think that was from Stamanik. And now the Wayne train with a chance to potentially get us going here on the counter-attack. Of course, we know all about him, Champions League winner, a quadruple winner with Plymouth Argyle at the end of our save, our first one on FM24 at the end of last year. But unfortunately just struggling here to keep hold of the ball, albeit Sarpreet Singh eventually starts to get us going for the Wayne train just outside the box. We'll take on a shot, but unfortunately a little bit weak, and the Syrian goalkeeper can stop that one from going into the top left corner. Libby Kache on a 6.3. He picks up a yellow card, so it might be time for us here to make some subs. In terms of left back options, don't have a lot, but Francis de Vries can play there, so we might switch him to left back and bring on someone like Nando Pineacre in place of Libby Kakache, and also we'll try Ryan Thomas in place of Marko Stamanic as well. As I said, that midfield actually one of the stronger areas in this New Zealand squad. Maybe let's try and get a few more midfielders into this team instead of having two up front, especially without Chris Wood, but a couple of changes as we still search for an equaliser. And just about to make our way into the last 10 minutes of our first game in charge of the all-white. Stats-wise, definitely been a lot better in the second half, actually, in terms of overall stats now on the front foot. We're going to just change some things going into these last 10 minutes, just try and go a bit wider and also drop that tempo a little bit, and hopefully that will help us grab some goals. And unfortunately, that hasn't quite been the case as we make our way into these last 5 minutes. We've got a couple of subs left. Nico Kerwin is down to a red heart. We'll give Callan Elliott some game time here. Of course, he's a player on trial at the Auckland A-League club. They can do something here to go a long way to getting a contract. Also, we'll put some of these players on some more positive roles just to hopefully make sure we can get something from this game, because this would not be a very good result, especially with that England one coming up. Now a corner here in our favour. De Vries Truska's head on the end of that one. He can't, but thankfully Joe Bell puts that one back into the mixer for Callan Elliott, fresh off the bench, makes his way there towards the edge of the box. Matty Garbutt gets his head on the end of that one, and we do grab an equaliser with only a few minutes left here against Syria at Mount Smart Stadium. So thankfully, might not be a loss in our first game in charge of the save. Does not bode well though for that England friendly coming up at the Gegenpress. Doing quite well stats-wise, and eventually we do grab a goal. Far post header there, and Matty Garbutt will put that one away. Will the man out of NAC, but that's some good bench impact there from Callan Elliott. Of course, a free agent. Might be worth offering him a contract if he's going to do something like that on the international stage. Now making our way into 3 minutes of added time. Whatever we did going into that second half, certainly a lot better than what we put out in the first. But unfortunately, that early goal around the half-hour mark that we did concede through Omar Carbine chipping it over Ollie Sale, we can't quite recover from that enough to pick up a win. But thankfully, late goal there to Matty Garbutt does mean that we do pick up a 1-1 draw next up. Things are probably going to be a lot tougher as we travel to Wembley. Don't think we need to do a stadium tour of that, because you guys probably know all about Wembley. But we'll see if we can pick up a result against England. Probably not. And here we go. Big early test for us here as the All Whites as we take on an England team who are taking this game far too seriously. That is a very strong 4-2-3-1 against New Zealand. We've switched here to a 4-2-3-1 as well, just to get an extra midfielder in Ryan Thomas over Garbutt, but harsh, but also going with a fluid counter-attacking style instead of the Gegenpress. It did work quite well in that second half, but England, much stronger team. Feel like the fluid counter-attack might be more suitable for a game like this, and we'll see what happens in this one. And just coming up towards the 15-minute mark now, and unfortunately early injury in this game, Sarpreet Singh's picked up an orange one I think we'll take things safe here with this being a friendly, even though it doesn't really matter seeing as Singh isn't going to be with us at AFC Auckland. But Marco Rojas is someone who could be, so I think we'll bring him on here in place of Sarpreet Singh just to see what he can offer and if he's worth picking up going into the start of the Auckland A-League season. And it's taken a lot longer than expected, but coming up now to the 23-minute mark, first highlight here, it did threaten to be in our favour, but poor touch there from Kerwin after taking the throw. Now Phil Foden has a lot of space inside him to try and play that ball, I believe, to Harry Kane, but thankfully, Harry Kane, he hits the post. That was a massive chance. Thankfully, the woodwork denies England, and it's still somehow 0-0. And just about to make our way into the last 5 minutes of this first half, somehow this game's still 0-0, and it does look like the fluid counter-attack 4-2-3-1 working quite well against an opponent like England. Still trying to work out here what might be the best style and also the shape with this New Zealand team. As I said during the first game, 4-2-3-1 might suit us more with that extra midfielder. But just before halftime here, Jude Bellingham kind of chips that one over Ollie Sale. Honestly, that was a really weird animation there from our goalkeeper, but Jude Bellingham, one of the best players in the world, one of the best players in FM24. He's just going to be way too good for us. Jack Grealish with the assist just finds a gap there in behind our defence, and that is a good finish into that top left corner. Still not sure about that save effort from Ollie Sale, but unfortunately can't quite hold on before half-time. We eventually go 1-0 down, and now England might make it double trouble here before half-time. Might be a misery compiler. Reece James picks out Bellingham yet again, but thankfully that time it's a bit of a weak shot, and we make our way now towards half-time. Ollie Sailboat will pump this one deep. Will the man these days at the Perth Glory. Actually, good pass there to pick out the Wayne train. What can he do up front by himself today? Could catch a bit of a poor pass though, and Reece James can get on the end of that one now. Jude Bellingham plays that forward to Saka. Tries to square that one. Unfortunately, no one there to pick it up off of Rice Baby. Now Harry Kane starts to make his way forward. Now out to Phil Foden. Looks like today he's playing on that left wing. Floats that one into the mixer. Tries to pick out Saka. Can't. Bellingham on the volley. Good shot there. Looking yet again for a second goal. But thankfully that one comes off the woodwork. We can clear it. And that should do it for the first half. To be fair, not doing too badly. Only being 1-0 down. But 2 shots, none on target. It's pretty average football from us, albeit we are 102nd in the world. England, one of the best teams in the game. They quite regularly win the World Cup at the first time of asking. Just checking here on some player ratings. Just going to maybe play around here with our tactic going into the second half. We've also got loaded a 5-2-3 wing play style, but I do think that 4-2-3-1 might suit us a bit better with the players who have been picked in the squad. Obviously, going to the next international window with a bit more of a say, we can actually pick that squad ourselves, unlike for these first couple of games. But we are just going to change things and try a wing play style for the second half, just see if that might get us on the front foot a little bit more. Obviously, England might not be the best opposition to try this against, but if we can try and find a tactic that might work against teams like this, that'll set us up nicely for when we eventually do get into competitions like the AFC Nations Cup, which we should definitely be winning and winning comfortably. We're going to try the wing play style out here for the second half and see if we can keep this one close against England, 1-0 down at Wembley. And very shortly into the second half, of course, can't rest players while on international duty, which is not ideal. So both our DMs, they have gone down 2 red hearts because that Alex Rufer can come on as the ball-wing midfielder, the man from the Phoenix, our rival club at AFC Auckland. And also, we're going to bring on here Matty Garbett in place of Stamanik, and Ryan Thomas can go back that more defensive / central midfield role. Does look a little bit better suited there. So a couple of subs early in the second half, still 1-0 behind. And not long off the back of those early subs in the second half, now it's an early throw in here to England. Ben Chilwell, part New Zealand, is on the ball, plays that one back to Calvin Phillips, gets a decent chance there from outside the box, but thankfully just flashes that one wide. We are still 1-0 down, but now Callum McCowart doing really poorly on a 6.2. I think we're going to take him off here for Elijah Just for these last 35 minutes. And short of the back of that change at left wing, we're actually on the front foot here with a free kick inside of the opposition half. Alex Rufer there plays that one out to Nico Kerwin at right back. Now tries to fizz that one into the mixer for Rojas, but unfortunately Guehi will pick that one up. Now Ben Chilwell, if only was just a little bit worse, we might have been able to get him to play for New Zealand. But yeah, that's one of the players that would have been really good for a save like this, just like Joe Gauci, who's got the 1 Australian cap since FM23. That was frustrating. He would have been a really good goalkeeper for us from Adelaide United. But there's a goal for Harry Kane just off the back of that sub. Elijah's just coming on. Foden puts that one into the mixer, and Harry Kane, unlike the first half, will put that one away, albeit from point blank range with his head. It's a good ball into the mixer there, right near the touchline, and Harry Kane far too good in the air for our centre-backs, which is not unexpected with someone like Tim Payne, who is more of a right-back. We go 2-0 down now. I think it's definitely time for us to experiment a little bit more. Yet again, we're going to take off Libby Kakache, who's struggling for Nando Pinaka, Francis de Vries. He can go left back, might just make us a bit stronger in terms of us aerially in defence. And also Tyler Bindon, that quite promising centre-back from Reading, he can come on for Tim Payne. Also, we'll try and go to the attacking gegenpress again, but this time a 4-2-3-1, just to see if that might work here against England like it did in that Syrian game, off the back of us going 2-0 down. And almost immediately off the back of that change to a gegenpress, now it's a corner here for England. I think that time it was Kerwin who headed that one away, but it falls to Bukayo Saka, and that shot did look like it took a decent deflection off of Just, I believe that was, but it does find the back of the net there. They make it 3-0. In fact, it did come off Kerwin there, not Just, but still, that's a bit of an unlucky goal to concede, but shortly off the back of going to a gegenpress, that's not working this time, and we are 3-0 behind. And just about to make our way now into the last 15 minutes of this game. I do think those tactical changes we made at halftime to a wing play and a gegenpress have not been working at all. We'll go back to the fluid counter-attack and see if that might help us. Still 3-0 down, albeit now it's a corner here to England. And Harry Kane gets on the end of that sucker ball, and he is on a hat-trick as we go 4-0 down. And maybe just tinkering with our tactics a little bit too much here with the All Whites. Probably should have stuck with things only being 1-0 down in the first half, but to be fair, this was a game wasn't expecting to win. Probably a good time for us to try and experiment just a little bit, but the fluid counter-attack, unfortunately, go back to that. We can see yet again, albeit with 10 minutes left, Marco Rojas starts to go forward down that right-hand side. Good little back flick there to Kerwin. Now Ryan Thomas just outside the box will pick up Francis de Vries these days as a left back. Picks out Elijah Just, and he will score a goal at Wembley. Well, Just, that's a nice impact from him off of the bench previously on a 6.4. That should help him out, but thankfully we do score a goal here at Wembley, so maybe we should have stuck to that 4-2-3-1 fluid counter-attack. If we did that, maybe we'd got back into this game a little bit sooner, but unfortunately just a consolation goal with so far our only shot on target. We make it 4-1 with 5 minutes left. We'll see if there's any more highlights in this game. We make our way into 4 minutes of added time, but unfortunately that looks like it will be all she wrote. To be fair, not too humiliating, albeit stats-wise you could argue it was, but thankfully we get a goal back late in that one. First half was actually quite good, but then did some tinkering going to the second half and probably shouldn't have done that, should have stuck with that fluid counter-attack, but unfortunately England is far too good for us, as you would expect, seeing as they are one of the best teams in the world and we are not even in the top 100, but unfortunately it goes as expected there in that second game of today's episode. We back up that draw against Syria with a 4-1 defeat to England at Wembley. So that was our first 2 games of the save here, the New Zealand Builder Nation with the All Whites, while we do still try and look to get our AFC Auckland team together for those first games in the A-League in tomorrow's episode. But unfortunately, that 4-1 loss to England, somehow the squad have reacted negatively to that, despite the fact you would have thought they should have been expecting that result, but still a bit of a negative impact. Hopefully that does not affect us before we do get stuck in to the next international break, albeit from here I think most of the international friendlies will just show you guys the highlights of as we start to focus a little bit more on the AFC Auckland side of this challenge, and we'll come back tomorrow to that squad unveiling. As I said earlier, if you want to enter that competition, you now have less than 24 hours to try and predict what squad I will have going in to that first game of the season, where we do take on Western United, and also off the back of that, we'll take on the defending champions in the Central Coast Mariners in our first home game at Mount Smart Stadium, and also we'll probably do a bus tour as well, going to Amy Park in Melbourne before that first game as AFC Auckland. But hopefully you guys are looking forward to this save. If you are, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you're looking forward to the series as well, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well, so you are informed when a new episode does drop. As I said, we'll come back tomorrow, those first 2 games of the A-League, and more importantly, we'll unveil our first AFC Auckland squad of this save. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.